time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do. Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing. I've been making loot since like 22. Ask me how I made it right here in the booth. I'm always pursued cause of what I pursue. That's greatness, yeah, I gotta make it, I got things to lose. Boy, wanna get in my crew, but you can't get in my crew. Me, XL, and Huber, way too fireable. When this joint drop, better call the troops. And when you hear the drop, better raise the roof. Better raise the roof. You already know what happens when we link up. Let's go. Yeah, I got the juice. Yeah, I got the juice. Big game cool, make them look like cool. Always play cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing.
I'm addicted to the good life. Yeah, lead the way, I follow. No need to say, with me you're heading down, babe. I follow to the edge of it all, to the edge of it all. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find no better one, yeah. Susceptible now, before the moment flies. Ooh, so tell your good night, 'cause I'll find no better one. Ooh, susceptible now, before the moment flies. It's not a problem, no, 'cause I know what I'm getting into. Yes, yeah, and nothing can stop me, no, 'cause I'm addicted to what you and I realize. Lead the way, I follow. No need to say, with me you're heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of it all. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one, yeah.
What is going on, Locked In Nation? What is going on? Welcome back to the Locked In Podcast, episode 260. We are back on the mic this week. I was actually talking to my brother Rich before this episode, and we had some good stuff to talk about before this. I was able to chop it up with some of the guys this week. A couple of my fellow brothers who are, fathers, to talk about the insight for this episode tonight. So we have about 4 guests that I have insight from that I was able to sit down with, talk with. So I'm excited to jump into this episode, guys. And ultimately, what we're talking about is the importance of mentorship when it comes to your own children. So we get so caught up as obviously, if you're a parent, in terms of, obviously doing the things that you need to for your children. But mentorship is also important, too, of how you shape them for their future. Even at a young age. So I'm going to talk about mentorship, some different examples from the guys that I have talked to. So we got John Green, my buddy John Green, who gave me some information. My buddy and mentor, James McCormick, also, he's been insightful on these podcast episodes before as well. So we got him in here tonight as well, who's gave me some great information. Can't wait to share it with you guys tonight. And then as well as let me see if I can fix this for Instagram real quick, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me see something, because I feel like I am. Give me 1 second. I feel like I am zoomed in on. I don't know if I can crop this or I don't know what do I do here. Can I crop this a different way? But yeah, let me see what I can do, guys, real quick. Let me see. It won't let me hover. Give me 1 second. I really want to. See if that's even worse. It won't let me do it. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm trying to change this. I don't want Instagram. If you're looking at me on Instagram, it's probably mad zoomed in. It is what it is. We're gonna have to work with what it is here. Why is this not letting me? It is what it is. Yeah, the ratio is kind of crazy for Instagram, but it is what it is, guys. So basically, that's what we're talking about tonight. This is what we're going to be talking about. Yeah, it is what it is. I can't really. I don't want to sit here and waste a lot of time on this stream trying to get Instagram to look right. But then it kind of puts me far from the mic. Basically, what we're talking about here tonight is mentorship, and we're also going to talk about complex family dynamics. So me and Rich have both been through that before, where we've been in blended family dynamics, and I do think that it is a good opportunity. Like it's great, and you know what? Contrary to popular belief, I do believe that people can have very healthy blended families. A lot of the content that's out there today will tell you otherwise. They'll say don't date single parents and things like that. That I think it's completely misinformation. Everybody is unique and different, and I think that you can build a beautiful relationship through a blended family. So I don't think that there is anything wrong with that. And I think me and Rich have both been in, I'm blessed to say, experiences that have been amazing through blended families. I know just the relationship and the bond that you build. And there is a toughness that comes when you split. I think that's something that's not talked about. I can cover that in a whole another episode, because that's definitely a big challenge that comes with it, because you grow to love that child. And when you're not in their life anymore, it really, really is tough for sure, because you build a deep bond. But I could do a whole episode on that. And I'm going to be honest with you, is that I, actually I wouldn't want to go into a lot of personal details in terms of that, just because of the fact of the person that I was with prior, just for personal reasons too. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that, I would have a conversation with that person before we reveal too much stuff. You know what I mean? Just out of respect for the person. But just from personal experience, I can tell you it really is tough. When you're in a blended dynamic, it can be beautiful, but if things don't work out, it becomes very challenging, for sure. So it's definitely like you're healing and you're grieving two people. So it can definitely be tough. But we're going to talk about some of the biggest wins that come from it, and then some of the biggest challenges, like nuances that come with this, because this is something that's not talked about a ton. I don't see a lot of content on this from the blended family side of it. Talk about mentorship too, because some of my friends that are dads, they're not in a blended family dynamic. They have had children with the mother. They are together with the mother of their children. So different dynamics. But blended families are one of the most common family structures today, though, guys. They really, really are. So you can also walk into a dynamic where a blended family dynamic could look like one person has kids and the other person doesn't, or both people can have kids from different mothers and fathers. So how does that look? It's just different types of, there's different styles of the blended family. So, but it is one of the most common family structures today, and yet so many men and women walk into step parenting or mentorship roles with zero roadmap, high expectations, and there's a ton of pressure that comes with it too. It is a different type of navigating that goes with that, especially from a discipline perspective. When the child is not your biological child, you definitely don't want to step on toes. You definitely don't want to step on toes. So, having conversations with the biological parents. So as a man, if you're dating a woman who has a child, having conversations and just having open dialogue and communication about what does discipline look like to you? What would you be comfortable with through discipline? Personally, for me, when it comes to discipline, I would like the biological parent to lead that. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Even as a woman, people like to say men lead this and the third. Yes, but when it comes, I think men can lead by example in different ways. But when it comes to the disciplining, I would want the mother to lead that discipline, and I'm there to support that, right? Like, we are on the same page. We hold the same standards. We hold the same boundaries. Now, if I was a single father and I dated a woman that didn't have kids, or even if she did, when it comes to my child, I would want to lead the discipline and have her have my back and be on the same page with me. There's a lot those are some of the challenges that come with it. Is what does discipline look like to you, right? Some parents really don't believe in physical force at all in this day and age, right? So it's like, it's different. Disciplining looks different for every parent, so being on the same page and being able to communicate is so important. Guys, if you're watching on Instagram, I just want to say, I know I look crazy because it's like zoomed in. I'm trying to find a way to not look at that, but it's not going to let me. It's kind of stuck that way. So if you see me like zoomed in or anything like that, it's just the way it is. It won't let me. I don't think it's going to let me. I don't think it's going to let me do anything I don't know. It's just it's definitely not going to let me. I don't know. You know what, though? We don't use Instagram a ton here. So for the next episode, I will see if I can do this. You know what? Let me see something. Let me see. I'm trying to. There we go. I mean, it's a little bit better. I don't know. Like, it's really not jiving with Instagram. So, I'm not on Instagram a ton here, so we'll get the layout good next week. It's all good. But basically, what I was saying, when it comes to blended family, there's a lot of different difficulties that come with it, to be honest with you. So we don't really use Instagram a lot here. Like I said, Facebook and YouTube typically. But yeah, when it comes to it, that's one of the examples is discipline. This hour-long podcast. It's about 45 minutes at this point. What we're unpacking here is what it really takes to build trust, to navigate the boundaries that come with this blended family dynamic, and to lead with empathy. Because I do believe that when it comes to something, say, as discipline, you want to try to understand the child and build a bond with them. It's more of a teaching moment more than I'm going to punish you or I'm going to do this. You obviously have to, I always believe in reward good behavior, and you have to not reward bad behavior. But I always think you want to try to derive some type of teaching moment out of it so that they don't constantly make the same mistakes. And it takes time to build trust. It takes time to foster, safety with the other child, especially because you're not the biological parent. So if the biological parent is still in the picture, there definitely can be some type of resentment to start off. Like, you're not my mom, you're not my real dad, you're not my real mom. And that's a real thing. So that's why it requires the communication and the support of your spouse, your partner, who is the mother or father to that child, to say, hey, this is the person that I am with. This is, you have to be able to communicate with them, talk with them, help them build trust together so that they can get on the same page. And it can take time, believe me, because some kids are more standoffish than others. I was blessed that in my situation, she took to me very quickly. It was very quickly from day one that she took to me, and it was just constant fostering trust. And you look at them honestly as your own child. So it takes time. Mike said, yo, brother. Mike, what's up, brother? But maybe you could tap in a little bit on this, man. What do you think about when it comes to mentorship of children, bro? I'm talking about a blended family dynamic, but I'm also talking about like the traditional family dynamics where like the mother and father are like still together and it's not a blended dynamic. What do you think about that, man? You're a dad. How you doing, brother? Appreciate you tapping in. So yeah, when it comes to that, it does require a lot of safety and trust, and it takes time. I was very blessed that in my situation is that she took to me very quickly, but it's still, I start to look at her as my own daughter, right? Like, you might not have been biologically mine, but like my own daughter. You don't want to let her down. You want to lead by example. And you also want to think of yourself as your daily actions. Is how I move, how she would look up to me, right? Like, is that how I would want her to move? Right? Like, in terms of like, is what I'm doing setting a great example? Am I setting an example for her as like through my daily movements? Because kids are like sponges and they will really absorb everything you put in front of them. So she was very intelligent, very, very smart, very intelligent. She picked things up very quickly. She was honestly eventually able to go into a gifted program at school. Very intelligent, very smart. And I think like very wise beyond her years. Probably knew a lot of things that she probably shouldn't have known. But, I loved her, and I always will. But, even though I'm not in that dynamic anymore, with the person that I was with, I was blessed to have the time that I was with her. And, I'll always love her. So, it's just you build a bond and with that person, and it's something that is still special. It might not be biologically your child, but it's still something that's very, very special. So I say that's one of the biggest wins that comes from it is the bond you get to build with them. But there's a lot of challenges. Like I said, discipline, communication, every style is different. And sometimes it can feel awkward, right? Because especially if the other parent is in the picture, you don't want to step on toes. So it is a challenging scenario sometimes. I'm not going to lie. That was the first time I was ever in that scenario. So it was a little bit challenging for me. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say it was easy, internally. It was a little challenging. And any type of disagreements between the mother and the father, I would let them handle that, right? How I would communicate it would be, look, if I'm going to let you handle that business between you and him, right? Like the biological dad, if you need my support or you need me to jump in, you just let me know and I'm here. You don't want to step on toes. You don't want to, I think a lot of guys, they get caught up in terms of, I need to be masculine. I need to set the precedent. I need to do this. When it comes to a child that isn't biologically yours, you need to let the biological parents handle the situation, right? Don't step on toes. From my personal experience, and this is fundamentally my belief, and I think that you still there to support your partner who has the child with the other person, but you have to set boundaries, right, of like what you won't tolerate, but you also have to communicate with them and say, hey, look, if you need my support, you know I got your back. So yeah, Mike said it gets hard at times. We do everything we can and we work through it all the time. We make sure that we lead a good path for our kids. I'm raising my kids like my grandparents did me. Yeah, and see, we learn our values. We learn how we want to raise our children sometimes from our parents, or sometimes how we don't want to raise our children, right? If we grew up in an abusive household or a household of neglect, obviously we don't want to raise our kids in those environments. But if you grew up in a strong, centered household, and I know your grandparents, your pop, they worked hard to raise you well. So obviously you have a good precedent and a good foundation when it comes to your grandparents on how you would like to raise your children. So that's a positive thing, man. It definitely can get hard at times. Believe me, I was talking to one of my brother who we're going to get into his notes in a little bit yesterday, and he's got 2 boys and he's working 2-3. And it's still just a struggle. And financially, just the economy is a tough one. Sitting there complaining about it ain't going to change it, though. We have to get up by our bootstraps and we have to get out there and do it all for our families. That's really what it comes down to. So, it is tough. I think a lot of people are struggling right now, more than some people are proud enough to admit. But the silver lining is we're alive. God has woken us today. We have an opportunity to honor him through everything that we do, our health, mentally and physically and spiritually. We can honor him through our work and purpose every single day. We honor him how we treat other people. I mean, literally every single day is an opportunity to be better. And I know that sounds like a big motivational speech, and yet easier said than done. Some days are going to be tougher than others. They just are. But if you have a family, you have a family, you're blessed. You're blessed than most people, more blessed than most people. I personally believe that is where you're winning in life. And not everybody has to have kids to have a family. You just got people around you, Some people don't want kids, and that's okay. But what I'll say is you're more blessed than most people. Mike said, my grandfather was hard on me, but gave me everything I wanted. And here's the thing. Tough love is a good thing, though, a lot of times, especially when it comes to raising a man, right? You have to be a little tough and you have to teach them lessons, but you can still show them empathy and love. He probably raised you that way because obviously, brother, we grew up in Philadelphia. It's so easy in Philadelphia, especially I knew where you grew, like down north, man. It's so easy to get caught up in BS, right, in the environments. So I think what he would, I know your pop loved you a lot, man, and rest in peace. I'm sure he was probably trying to toughen you up so that, like, hey, I'm trying to keep you in line. I'm trying to make sure that you don't fall into those environments. Yeah, I don't know what his thought process was, but I'm sure, tough love is important, I think, sometimes, right? Love and empathy is important too, but we also have to be, we have to make tough decisions sometimes in how we parent and how we discipline. Because that's how, especially when it comes to men, that's how it's going to raise a man, right? You're going to teach a man to be accountable. You're going to teach him to, respect other people. You're going to teach, but accountability is so important when it comes to young men. So that's a good thing. He said it made me the man I am today. Absolutely. See, it shapes us. If you have a parent that isn't hard on you and is like extremely lenient on you, you see, that's where I think, that can definitely allow a child to stray into being a very disrespectful person, or I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, but when you see a lot of cases of grandiosity when it comes to people, or like overconfidence and arrogance as they get older, or like narcissism, a lot of it is because people were praised and never were held accountable. And that's a lot of times where it can start. Now, narcissism and all that can be genetic for sure, but also the environment that you grow up in can also be a factor. So if you were always taught that you're always right and you're never wrong and your parents are never hard on you, it can lead to a false sense of entitlement that can take a long time to come back down to earth and heal as an adult. Some people never heal that, especially with severe cases of narcissism. So it's a good thing that he was hard on me, man. Said it is hard at times. I work every day and it's still hard. Not scared to say it's hard. That's a good thing. Yeah, of course. A lot of people are struggling right now, man. It's hard. It's hard. He said, I'm like that with my son. A little hard on him, but I want him to be a good man when he gets older. My daughter's soft on her. I feel like a lot of dads are soft when it comes to the little girls, man. Usually the moms are a little tougher when it comes to that. We always have a soft spot for our daughters, right? Like, it's just, I know for any of my buddies that have daughters, it's, a lot of times it's like that. But yeah, obviously we still need to instill discipline in them too and things like that. But yeah, it's different. Everybody's dynamic's different. Appreciate your info, brother. Go back to my stuff here. So yeah, guys, appreciate all the views that are in here right now and locked in here tonight. If you guys are tuning in, where are you guys tuning in from tonight? If you're a dad, stepdad member, drop a lock drop a lock emoji down in the comments. I know Mike is. Mike's a dad. You don't have to be a stepdad for this episode. That's the thing. This is a blended. A lot of we are talking about blended families, but this is also a mentorship episode. So you guys can tune in no matter what. And you don't even have to be men. Honestly, this is women too. So, this, I know a lot of our content is geared towards men, but this is parents no matter what. So if you're from a blended family as a stepmother, or you're a mom who has children, tap in here. We're having a whole conversation here tonight. I want to harp on some of the points I got tonight, right? Because we are on a short. You got about 32 minutes. I want to keep this to an hour here tonight. So I want to go into my buddy John's point first and foremost. Me and John we're talking over the weekend, and I want to go into John's point here tonight as I dive in. And John had said the other day, he kept it short and sweet. I took some notes here. His advice was never give up and really learn endurance and learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's a very cliche saying, but when it comes to parenting, you have to understand that you're not always going to be comfortable. There's definitely going to be some lack of sleep and short and long nights. Not everything's going to go your way. You can come home from working a very long job shift, and then you still have to be a dad, or you still have to be a mom, right? And it never ends when you're a caregiver to another child, to another human being, to another life. Another life is in your hands. So he said, take deep breaths. Be careful about how much nervousness you show on your face and demeanor, so the kids and the wife do not feel scared in situations like emergency visits. Stoicism, right? I think it's good for a man to be able to communicate and show his emotions and his feelings, but also be able to hold a certain frame in tight and stressful situations. It's okay to feel things, but there are situations where it's going to call for you to be stout, for you to be solid, so your wife and your children can depend on you, right? In tough situations. Absolutely. And that's such a great point. He said, make a point to reassure the kids and the wife. Absolutely. To tell them it's going to be okay. And guess what? You have God in your life. It is going to be okay because he is there. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So we are expected as men to be stout, to be solid, so our wife and our children can depend on us. They can lean on us in tight and stressful situations. Like I said, it's okay to express your emotions, but there are certain situations, right? There's time and a place. You want to be able to hold frame and reassure them in those tough situations. That's what John had said here. That's what John had put here. He said, when talking with the wife, be honest, but focus on what can be done. Make a point to be comforting to them, but also to be very present in the moment and not disconnected. John, great words. Great words, man. So my brother John Green dropped that, and he is a dad of two. Been married for over 5 years now, And, me and him have had our fair share of conversations where he has felt stressed or he had felt like he's not doing enough, right? John's been on this podcast before. It was a long time ago, a few years back, and he talked about fatherhood on here. It was one of the first episodes we ever talked about in terms of parenting and fatherhood, actually. I think it might have actually been the first ever. But me and John go back to community college, and that's where we met. Great guy. And like a lot of my brothers before me that have kids now, I've seen them shape into very mature men, but they still have their struggles. They still have their struggles, and so do women too. I know women who are, either single mothers or they're in a household where they're not single mothers. They have somebody, but it's still tough. We all have feelings, we all have emotions, and we all have different burdens that we're dealing with. So, it's always different. But John has always been straightforward. He's never ever avoided those tough conversations. Me and him have been able to talk, and John's just a good guy. I appreciate the openness, John. Appreciate that. Thank you for giving me these notes that I can share here tonight. Next, I want to move to my mentor, James here. Gave me some great stuff too. So let me see. James, my brother, we go back from like 2018, and I'm blessed to look at him as a mentor. So what he added, he said he had loved the topic when we had talked. What he had added here was that being a father, being a dad is an amazing opportunity to impact your child's life. It's less about having rules, and it's more about creating a relationship, right? And you see, I even said that through the discipline part of it, from the blended family, from the blended partner side. So like when you discipline your children, right, you shouldn't think of it as like I have to punish them like a dictator. It's more so, how can we teach them the lesson through it, right? How can this be a teaching moment for them? Like I said, you still want to be stern, right? Because you don't want to reward bad behavior. That is how children learn. That is to not reward that bad behavior, and you reward good behavior. When they act with respect. Oh, sorry there, guys. I think I went out for a second. There we go. Not sure what happened there. But when you reward good behavior and you punish bad behavior, it teaches them a certain level of respect. But you have to be consistent in the way you discipline. That's one thing I've noticed in people who are in households where there's multiple people, grandparents living together, the mother or the father, and there's the grandparents. You know how grandparents, a lot of times they're softer on children, and it is funny. I've seen grandparents be softer on them, but then were very harsh when they were raising their own kids, but they're soft on the grandkids. Now, if you live in a household like that, it can be really challenging in terms of miscommunication. If the mother and the father are not on the same page, I've seen this too, blended family dynamics, it makes it very difficult because the child knows it can go to one parent or the other parent. Even if you're not even in a blended family, you're just together, husband and wife, you're married, or you just had kids together and you're still together in a relationship. If you don't communicate effectively and get on the same page, it can be really challenging because children know. They're very smart. They know who they can go to get away with certain things. And that's what you don't want, because it breeds very inconsistency. It's a lot of inconsistency, and the child can manipulate, they can try to get their way. You want to be on the same page so you can hold the same boundaries, the same levels of respect, the same levels of discipline, all of that. So James said it's more about creating the relationship. This relationship is a continuous series of communication and love. Yes, it's not about you and your comfort level, but it's about empowering your child to live their life fully. Being a dad is an opportunity to impact a child to become an asset to this world and community and motherhood as well. So being a mother as well, like his wife can also state. So James has a daughter, and he's a girl dad, but his relationship with his daughter is an amazing one. Like I see it and how they interact. They're like best friends, like literally. Like he's, as she's grown up and like into adolescence and stuff, like he's honestly like best friends with her. You could tell that she respects him. She has a lot of respect. And James in general is just a good communicator. He's a very good communicator. Direct, straightforward, but also a guy who has a sense of humor too. So I couldn't agree with you more, James, that I do think it is a continuous series of, and continuous is the key word. Consistency, continuous, love and communication. That's what it comes down to. A lot of the hardest things can be solved with just a little good communication. Seriously. And I think that comes when it comes to parenting, same thing, like being able to get on the same page. And you're not always going to be on the same page, right? There's going to be beliefs that you have or your partner like have, but being able to compromise, come together, and yeah, no matter how long that takes, right? You want to do what's best for your children or your child. So he said that he wants her to become an asset to this world and community. Absolutely, my brother. Appreciate you sharing, man. Appreciate you sharing. We'll also talk about Heath's point too shortly. We'll go into that. But anyway, guys, I want to go back to the notes before I go. So those are two of the 4 people that I've spoken to in this past week over this episode, or actually over the last 2 weeks, because this episode was actually originally scheduled for last week. But what Heath has said is so then when this is one of the key parts is when it comes to Heath's perspective. I wanted to go through. He said, "I'm about to get off of here." Mike said, "I'm about to get off of here. I got to make some food. Have a good night." Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for tapping in tonight and spending some time with us, man. Hope to see you next week. Take care, my brother. Be safe. Have a good weekend. So what Heath had said is his insight was, you and your partner must be aligned in private before you present any decisions to the kids in public. And wow, is that a powerful thing to say? Like, is that not, like, how powerful is that? Because I think it's true. It's absolutely true. You need to be on the same page privately before you ever bring any major decisions to your children, right? You know, you want to be on the same page privately. That kind of just goes back to James there about being able to be on the same page. You know, this is what this comes down to. So children can definitely pick up misalignment between partners. Are you noticing that there's a consistency with this here that I'm talking about, right? It's consistency among the guests, among the people I've spoken to, is that partners have to be on the same page. They have to be on the same page, because if they're not, it becomes more challenging. Now, you still can navigate, because here's the thing. If you are in a household where the 2 partners didn't work out, right? They're split, and then the child is going from one house to the next. You can't control, unfortunately, how the other person is going to parent. You just can't. But this is why these parents need to educate themselves more so that they can. You want to think it's the best interest of the child for you to get on the same page. You got to take your ego out of the equation. The ego has to drop in terms of this. It's not about you. Like James said, it's about the child or the children if you have multiple kids. It's not about you two. You have to throw your ego out. Sometimes it just makes, even if the other person is coming at you with their ego, you have to drop your ego first sometimes. You have to lead by example. I think as men, we always should lead by example, right? Put your sword down. This is to come together for your child, to communicate, right? So they pick up on misalignment, right, between partners. If step parents and biological parents aren't on the same page, especially when it comes to the blended family, regarding discipline and values, it definitely creates confusion and division. You don't want that too. I feel like when it comes to blended families, I've seen this a lot. The biological parent and the step parent are at odds or blows, right? There's sometimes, especially in the early stages, there's resentment, because at one point they were raising a child with that person, and for whatever reason the relationship didn't work out. There's egos too much coming together in these situations, and I've seen this. Like, if you have love for that little girl or that little boy or children, you have to put your ego aside. Like I said, especially if you're coming in as the step parent role, put your ego aside. Don't step on toes. Try to talk from an understanding spot. Some people are just not going to meet you there, though, right? It's tough, but you have to try to come together for the child. Like I said, in theory, it's easier said than done. I'm just laying a roadmap, but at the end of the day, I can tell you from experience, it's a lot easier said than done, because you can't, the thing is, other people have free will, but you can't control how other people are going to respond. So say if you're the step parent, the other person's biological parent, the only way you can choose to respond is how you respond and how you show up in that situation. So if you're the biological parent, the other person is dating another person, right? So they're a step parent to your child. Obviously, you're going to want to know a lot of all the things about that person before your child is in, or your children are in that person's presence, right? You want to know if they're a safe person. You want to know how they plan to discipline your child. You want to know what type, just in general, what type of person they are. So, yeah. So I'll give you a tactical scenario in response to this situation, right? Because I want to actually implement these to get excited. And I want you guys to let me know too. Let me know how you would respond to this before I do. So what do you do when a child challenges your authority with "you're not my dad or mom"? Very common for blended family scenarios. So take a moment to think about that as I look at Facebook real quick to see through here tonight. Let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, so let me know. So I see some people tapped in here. So what would you do with that question? If you are in a blended family and the boy or the girl say, "You're not my mom or dad," how would you respond to that? Because I have my response, but let you guys think that. I'm gonna let you guys look at that one and think at that one real quick. Because I know how I would respond, because I've been in the situation before. Honestly, I'll say this though. I wasn't in my last relationship in that example. I will say she took to me very quickly, but I've seen this, right? Like, I'm very lucky that she took to me very quickly. She wasn't very apprehensive when I was in a blended family scenario and I was a stepdad to her. But I've seen this a lot. So if a child challenges your authority, "You're not my mom or dad," when you go to discipline, right? So what do? Number one, you got to stay calm. Don't take the bait. Don't drop to their level. Don't match the emotional heat. It's going to be all right. Validate them, right? "You're right. I'm not your biological mother or father. But in this house, it is my job to support you." And I'll say, as a dad, right? It's my job to support your mother and to support you and to keep you safe. Re-anchor the standard without the power struggles, right? That's the ultimate goal. You want to re-anchor the standard without the emotional heat. That is what you do in that scenario. I'm telling you. And they might still challenge you at first, but you have to hold the standard. You have to hold the standard by trying to explain it to them. You don't ever want to drop to their level in terms of yelling or fighting or getting emotional like that. Right. So a couple other talking points that I have for you here is that mentorship cannot be forced or assigned. It has to be earned through consistent presence and reliability over time. Consistency. So this is what we go back to here. The key concept that I have for you is mentorship versus management, right? Parenting often requires management, rules, chores, schedules, things like that. These are the busy things that parents go through. This is the everyday life of parents. Mentorship focuses on connection, listening, teaching, guiding, being present. So there's a difference that comes from management. Obviously, we're managing on the day-to-day, but you want to mentor your child. Mentorship focuses on connection over just dictating rules. So instead of just rules, pointing fingers, constant schedules, and chores, you want to be able to listen as well, right? Like, those things are important. You want to have a schedule. You want your child doing chores. You want rules. They're important for organization. But make sure that you're connecting with your child too, helping listening to them, validating them, teaching them, guiding them, being present with them. Don't be disconnected and off on your phone when your child is talking to you. Try to be present with them, right? Spend time with your children every single day, and intentional time. So James had also said, mentorship is less about having all the answers and more about being a safe place for your child to ask hard questions without immediate judgment. So what is meant by this? So men, I'll say this from the man's perspective, right? But I will say this, women, similar, right? Like you guys have perspectives as well. So if you're a woman out there, you could still comment into this show. This isn't just men based for tonight. But I'll say from the men's perspective, we're often wired to solve problems. We're problem solvers is typically what we are. I've been in relationships where I wasn't the best listener. I was always trying to solve the problem instead of just listening to my partner. I've grown a lot from that. I've learned, right? Of course, this is how you learn. But we are naturally wired to be problem solvers. This is how men are typically. But mentorship with youth, it requires difference in this. And this can go with your partner, but it also goes with your kids. You want to listen first. Listen before you try to solve problems. Because a lot of times what you're solving you might not even really be fully understanding what the person needs. And sometimes they just want you to listen. So validate their perspective, ask the guy the questions. How do you think you should handle that, right? Especially when it comes to kids. How would you think you should handle that? And then you can respond and jump in. So he said, kids don't learn from what you tell them. They learn from how they watch you handle stress, anger, and mistakes. And this kind of goes back to John's point too. Kids are always watching you, right? They're emulating you. They're like sponges. So how you move on a daily basis, kids learn this. They learn this behavior. It's hard sometimes to not be able to show stress. I'm telling you, it's hard. But they do emulate you, right? It's the truth. They really do emulate you. So how do you handle frustration? So if you're a parent out there, blended or just a biological parent, step parent or biological, or adoptive even, how do you handle frustration in front of your kids? Showing healthy conflict resolution and admitting when you mess up teaches them accountability far better than any type of lecture out there in the world is, because you're their parent. You are their caregiver. They get to see it straight from you. That's the most powerful thing. So I'm going to put another scenario out there for you guys. I like doing this. A child is shutting down or being distant. What's your response? So if your child is shutting down or being distant, what's your response? I have mine. If you want to drop in the chat there, drop it in the chat. Or even if you're not a parent, how would you respond to that scenario? All right, so I'm gonna jump in here. So what I would do is I would shift from direct confrontation, from the face-to-face eye contact that can often feel aggressive in these types of scenarios, to parallel activities like driving in the car, doing a project, walking, or playing a game with my kids. Like that's how you kind of get them. And every child is different, but these are great, effective ways, I think, to be able to get your child to open up a bit, right? Or, kids open up far more naturally when the focus isn't strictly locked on them. When you're strictly locked on them and their problem, it can actually make them shut down even more. And I've learned this from experience, and I've learned this from like real life being a step parent. Like you really learn this, you see this. But guys, we're literally near the 50-minute mark here. So I went through the guests' points here tonight. I talked to Rich. I'll talk about that at the end here. As we wrap up, but I wanted to get the guest points out first. Managing relationships, it's tough when it comes to the blended family, the co-parenting and external dynamics. Like I said, I don't have children with somebody that I'm not with anymore, but I was a step parent to a child who I'm no longer with the person. So it's a tough dynamic. But if you are co-parenting with somebody, managing relationships with your exes or the biological parents outside the household, this is an interesting talking point. I would say if you are in a co-parenting relationship, these are big things to do, right? Never talk down about a biological parent in front of the child. It forces the child to take an internal emotional side, and it's a struggle. This is what I see all too often. I see a lot of unhealthy behaviors when it comes to talking about the other person. Look, you may really not like the person you had a child with, right? They could really not be a good person. Maybe you had a child with them, but they're just not a good person, right? Even though they birthed you a child, they were a founder in it, they just might not be a good person. And you don't have to like them, right? You don't have to love them. You don't have to like them. But when it comes to talking about them in front of your children, you have to be really mindful, right? Because they also have a relationship with that other parent as well. And you don't want to have to make them take an emotional side. I've seen this all too often. And it is tough sometimes because that other parent can really anger you. They could be toxic, anger you. They could be toxic. They could have, controlling tendencies, whatever it is. But you also have a child, and you have to be careful to not make them take an internal emotional side there. Keep the adult issues between the adults. Speak to them one-on-one, and if you need to vent to a trusted family member or a friend, right? Don't let your child see that, because all you're doing is bad mouthing the other parent. It's never good. You're making them take an internal emotional side, and it's not good. And you really just might hate the other person. I mean, you seriously might just hate them. And I understand. Like, they might be a really bad person. But at the end of the day, y'all have a child together. You have to just keep those conversations away from your children. You don't want to have to make them fight for one side or the other. So I want to talk about Rich's perspective here, because Rich, this is the end here. I went through all the guests' perspectives. I want to talk about what I had talked to about Rich, who was originally going to co-host this with me before he had to, couldn't do it tonight, scheduling conflict. It's all right. We talked on the phone earlier tonight. The guests I had talked to throughout the week, and some of them over a week ago, but with Rich, we talked tonight. So one of the notes that we had talked about was a long-term bond building comes down to the small daily rituals rather than big expensive gestures. That is critical. Me and Rich have both been in blended family dynamics. We've both been in step parenting dynamics. Long-term bond building doesn't require some expensive, crazy outing, right? To do that, you can bond with a child in the most simple thing, in the most simple situations, right? Like, I feel like young children, most of the time, they don't really need a ton. They want somebody who's present. They want somebody who spends time with them. They want someone who listens to them and actually wants to be around them and be present with them. If you guys have ever been in this dynamic, right, whether you are a biological parent, a step parent, or an adopted parent, have you ever had examples of like the micro moments, like inside jokes, like quick check-in texts, like supporting their interests? Like, there's a lot of different scenarios, but I'm sure if you guys are parents, you can relate. It's the small tasks. It's the little things. It's the little moments that you spend with your child. They lose their first tooth, like they score their first goal in hockey, I don't know, or hit their first basket, like all like the little things, like the time you being present with them. It's not about all the expensive things. Like, look, if you have wealth and you are able to take like extravagant trips and be able to go around the world, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's awesome. But it's not about how much money you throw to scenarios. I've also seen situations where parents will buy their kids things, and they'll literally have that as a substitute for spending time with them. And I think that's one of the saddest things, because life moves so fast. I've seen some of my friends' kids or family members' kids who've just grown so quickly. I'm like, where did the time go? And they always, it's an emotional thing, because your children they grow so quickly. And what I would tell you is, we are so caught up in the world, right, where we have to provide, we have to work, and it's just every day moves so quickly. So really cherish like the little things, whether it's just my one buddy, right? He comes home, he rolls around with his boys every single night, wrestles with them on the floor, like for an hour after he comes home from working 2 or 3 jobs. And he said, a lot of times I just want to come home and take a nap, but parenting doesn't stop. Like, you're not just going to be able to go take a nap whenever you want or do this. It doesn't stop. Like, you still have to come home and be a father or a mother, if you're working. It doesn't stop. So, but I respect, but those little moments of him wrestling with the boys, when they get older, and he's not able to do that with them anymore, he's going to miss that. Like, these are real things. Like, these moments are priceless. You can't put a price on them. So this is something that me and Richard talked about, but it's really what it comes down to is, long-term bond building with a child or children comes down to small daily rituals rather than the big expensive gestures. That's ultimately what it comes down to. I appreciated Mike joining in tonight. He dropped a lot of good comments. One of the final takeaway quotes that I want to give you guys, because we have about 5 minutes left here, to anyone who's watching and tuned in, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. What's up, guys? Drop a lock in the comments below if you're tuned in here tonight. So at the end of the day, being a father, step parent, or a mentor, it's not about perfection. It's not. There's no such thing as perfection. You've probably heard it a million times, right? That's true. It's about showing up consistently. The daily habits. Sticking to your word. Being the person you're saying you're doing what you say you're going to do. respecting the process, leaving a legacy of support that they can build on, right? I don't have biological children right now. It's my mission in life, right? I don't have biological children right now. But even if you're not you're not a parent right now, you don't have kids, think about how your future kids would look at you, right? Like, is how I am moving on a daily basis something I would want my children to look up to, right? And even if you're a step parent, because I used to move the same way, I had to look the same way. Like, is this how I would want her to move as she got older, right? Am I building myself into something that my child or children can look up to? Someone that they can look up to. Zach commented in, he said, "Yes, sir. What's good, brother? Hey, what's up, my brother? Appreciate you tuning in, man. Man, we walked through a few of my guests tonight. My buddy John, my buddy Heath, and my buddy James, my mentor as well. They gave me some great insight throughout the week. We were kind of just talking about the importance of mentorship when it comes to your kids. And we talked a little bit about the blended family dynamic. Me and Rich have both been in scenarios where we were step parents at one point. So appreciate you tapping in, my brother. This is what it's about, all the community here. Yeah, we're in the last few minutes here, but yeah, that's what I was saying. It's all about showing up consistently. You have to stick. You have to follow through on what you're going to say too. This is something, and and if you don't follow through on it, you have to hold yourself accountable for that. You have to explain to them, because you always want to follow through for the majority of the time. There are obviously rare circumstances where you can't, maybe, but try not to make promises that you can't keep. Follow through on your word and move accordingly. You want them to be able to emulate that. They see that you're a consistent person, they'll be a consistent person. They see you're a respectful person, they will be a respectful person. This is what it's all about. Children are like sponges. They, like John had said there, they absorb every single thing you do. So children are always going to be watching what you do all the time. So you have to be very mindful. Like I said, even if you got to blow up or you got to, you're angry about something, walk away, go to another room. Don't let your children, don't bring it around your children, because how you handle stress and certain situations, how you handle stress in these situations, your children will always watch that, right? They will see that over the year and over time, more consistently, of how you respond to stress. They see that. Zach had said, "This is a great topic. Sorry, I missed this. I need to go back and watch. I will probably be a parent within the next couple of years." Yeah, you and me both, my brother. You and me both. Yeah, man. Absolutely. And if you ever want to talk about this, we can definitely, chop it up and talk. Zach, Mike, appreciate you guys. But that was my final takeaway here. At the end of the day, being a father, a step parent, a mentor, it isn't about perfection. It's just about showing up consistently, respecting the process, and leaving a legacy of support that they can build on. Ultimately, your kids. That's what it comes down to. I just want to thank the panel contributors here tonight. So, John, appreciate you, my brother. Heath, appreciate you. James, appreciate you. I know we'll be meeting probably within the next week for your insights in this episode tonight. Rich, appreciate you too. Even though you weren't able to pop on, we did have a good conversation earlier this afternoon. So these are good. This is always a good topic. It's good information. And I am looking forward to a rebrand. Like right now, what we're doing is we're rebranding with the website, different types of things, a lot of good creative tools that I'm working with right now. But ultimately, guys, share this podcast with other people that you think that really can utilize this information, right? This is a personal growth podcast. The ultimate goal of what we're working on right now behind the scenes is to get more eyes on this, because we believe in our content. We love the people that we work with on this podcast that we bring on, but we are trying to get more eyes on this podcast. We're trying to grow this for the rest of the year, and we're really trying to build more. So, look, if you know a fellow brother that needs to see this, share it with them. If you know another woman that needs to see this too, because this episode tonight was not just about dads; it was about mothers as well. So, anyone you feel that you can, anyone you feel that can benefit from this, share this, because the more eyes we get on it, the more people we can help. The more people we can help here. So thank you to all the contributors. Thank you to the commenters, Mike, Zach. Appreciate you guys. He said, "Yo, if you need help tech-wise, hit me up." Yeah, my brother, I'm definitely gonna I'll definitely talk to you behind the scenes, man. You're doing your thing with like a lot of the editing and stuff, man. I'm always teaching and trying to learn myself and grow too, man. So absolutely, man. We'll talk more after this episode. Appreciate you, brother. Zach, my guy, appreciate you. Mike, let me check Facebook before we tap out. I know I had covered people earlier, but let's see what we have going on here. All right, guys, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everybody who chimes in tonight, I appreciate you guys. We will be back next week. We'll have a whole new calendar slate that is going to be going on into the month of August, end of July into August. So excited for that. I do want to say, guys, I'm going to be away the last week of August. I actually will not be here. So I don't know if in that week, I'm still kind of putting this one together for the last week of August. I don't know if we're just gonna have a open week that week where we just post content and then just skip an episode that week, or we'll go live on a different day because I'm going to be away Monday through Friday that week on vacation. I'm just not going to be here, not going to be in the country. We'll figure that one out. But guys, appreciate you, Shelton, as well. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. To everybody else out there who watched this podcast episode, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the support. We'll be back next week for episode 271 or 261. And you guys can actually look forward to some good short form content. We're going to be putting out TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all things like that. So we'll have content on this episode, and we'll have content from some prior episodes that we had too. But have a good night, guys. Great weekend. And I can't believe that we're nearing the end of July. It's crazy. This time next week will be the last week, and they'll be like the last couple of days in July. Time is flying. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. God bless. See you next week.